Okay, so the next video we're going to do, this also relates to Christmas or Thanksgiving, but we're doing this for Thanksgiving. We are going to make pumpkin pie. Yeah, no, we're not making fresh pumpkin pie from a pumpkin. I'm cheaping out and I'm going with a can. The following things are what we're going to need. We are going to need a large can of pumpkin. We are going to need ground nutmeg, ground cinnamon, ground ginger, salt, sugar, eggs, 4 eggs. They'll have to be slightly beaten. I'll show you that in a little bit. 4 tablespoons of melted butter and 3 cups of scalded milk. Now you're probably wondering, how do you scald milk? Well, that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. Okay, so in order to scald milk, I've got 1 cup in here. I'm going to add my 2 cups that I'm going to add to it, making 3 cups total. And what you're going to do is you're going to place it on the burner, turn it on medium heat, and we're going to heat the milk until there's a film on top of it. Okay, so you want to heat it until there's a slight film on it, and then you're going to remove it off the heat immediately because you don't want to burn your milk or boil it. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to scald, we can put the rest of our ingredients in the bowl. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to slightly beat our eggs. They don't have to be completely beaten. That's good enough for right now. That's all we need. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put our pumpkin in our bowl. Okay, so now we're going to put the pumpkin in the bowl from the can as we start to prepare to make our filling for our pumpkin pies. You want to make sure that you get out as much as you can out of the can, because if you don't, that's just a waste of money. Nobody likes to waste money.
What?
Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to scrape out our can of pumpkin, and we're going to discard the can, and now we're ready to start adding the other ingredients. First of all, in this bowl I have 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ginger, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of salt of your choice, 1.5 cups of sugar will go into it, 4 slightly beaten eggs, 4 tablespoons of melted butter. Now let's get to mixing our stuff. First of all, we're going to take our bowl of ingredients. We're going to make sure that we've gotten everything out of there so nothing gets missed. After we do that, we're going to mix this into the pumpkin thoroughly. And I can make sure we'll make short work of it so it won't take too long for this to occur. Next to that, we're going to add our 1.5 cups of sugar. And we're going to add and mix this in. Now you'll see that it's getting a little bit clumpy. Don't worry, we'll make sure that it's not lumpy. It'll eventually be incorporated completely into the pumpkin before we pour it into the pie shells. The next thing we're going to add is our slightly beaten eggs. and we're going to mix this in. Now, the whole point of making pumpkin pie this way is to ensure that you don't get any bubbles created into the mixture. That's why I don't use a mixer. I do everything by hand. That makes sure that everything is nice and smooth. Yeah, it's a kind of an old-fashioned way, but I find that this works the best for me. Once this is fully incorporated, like this, we're then going to add in our melted butter. I'm going to make sure we get all of that wonderful tasting butter in there. Nothing's better than butter. And we'll incorporate this into the pie mixture. Now our milk is still working on being scalded. And like I said, once this is completely incorporated, we have to wait until the milk scalds. Then we have to allow the milk to cool completely to room temperature before it's added to the pumpkin mixture. Okay, well, that's all we can do for right now because we have to wait on the milk now. Bring you back when the milk is done. Okay, our milk is almost done. We're looking for a film. Remember we talked about that earlier? And just have to check it with a spoon, and you see the residual there? That is the film that's being created from heating the milk to be scalded, for it to be scalded. We just have a little bit longer to go, and this should be ready to pull off of the heat. Okay, I'm going to be turning the heat off, and I'm going to be pulling this off of the heat because our milk is now done. And the reason why I'm saying that is I will show you in 1 minute. See this right here? See if I can zoom in. You see how that's got a film on it? Our milk is completely and thoroughly scalded at this point. So now all we have to do is wait for it to cool down completely, and we can add it to the pumpkin mixture. One side note I want to bring to your attention: when this is fully cooled, you want to skim off that kind of like film right there. You want to skim that completely off. You don't want that going into your pumpkin pie. Okay, remember I told you that it has a skin on top of the milk, and we want to remove that skin. So I do just like that. And that's what we're removing. So now you know that the milk is scalded. What we're going to do next is we're going to put a little bit of milk in to our pumpkin mixture, just a little bit at a time. That way we can make sure that it is fully incorporated and we're not ending up with big globs of this type of pumpkin mixture on it. So I'll bring you back as soon as I get this first amount of milk mixed in. Okay, so we've got that one mixed in, and we're going to pour a little bit more of the milk in. And you see we still have some milk left. And as soon as I get this mixed in, I'll bring you back. Now, one thing I want to show you is I am scraping the bottom of the bowl as I bring it around. And you want to make sure you do that so that everything is incorporated evenly. We'll bring you back as soon as this is completely done, and we'll pour in the rest of the milk. Okay, we've got that one completely mixed in. We're going to pour in the rest of our milk, and we're going to mix this in and make sure that there is no white or weird streaks in our pudding pie or in our pumpkin pie. So we're just going to keep mixing this until the milk is completely incorporated and it has a uniform color throughout the entire mixture. Okay, now that we have everything incorporated, now we're going to pour them into my pie shells. I already did this ahead of time. I will have a video on how to make wonderfully flaky pie shells if you want to make them homemade. You can buy them in the store pre-made if that's the way you want. Hey, go ahead and do it. Anything to save a little bit of time. So now we're going to pour our mixture into the pie shells, trying to make as little of bubbles as we can. And we're going to try to make it as even as possible. And I will be taking my spatula out of there because I want to scrape the bowl. Like I said, when you're making pumpkin pie from scratch, it is important that you keep one thing in mind, that you try to minimize the amount of bubbles that's in the pudding itself. Yes, it is considered a type of pudding. So in case if I refer to it as pudding, you understand it's pumpkin pie, not an actual pudding. So now that we've got both of these ready to go into a 450 degree oven. Now we're going to bake these in the oven at 450 degrees for approximately 15 minutes. Then we are going to turn the temperature of the oven down to 350 degrees and then bake it for another additional 30 minutes at that temperature until the pumpkin pie is firm. Now, you're probably asking, well, how am I going to tell if it's firm or not? Well, you get a toothpick just like you do with a cake, and you poke it in the middle. If it comes out somewhat clean, your pies are done. So let's get these into the oven, and we'll bring you back when they're done baking. Okay. Here are our pumpkin pies. I just took them out of the oven. We're going to stick a toothpick in. Toothpick came out clean. Put it in here. Toothpick came out clean. Our pumpkin pies are done. Enjoy your holiday, everybody. And I hope you use my recipe for pumpkin pie, homemade.